So, The Avengers was f***ing awesome, breaking box office records, proving Marvel Studios' mad plans worthwhile, successfully transplanting comic book continuity to movie screens, throwing down the gauntlet before all superhero movies to follow, possibly resurrecting the big screen career of the Incredible Hulk, and improbably transforming hardworking character actor Mark Ruffalo into the breakout star of what might end up being the biggest movie of the year. Now, as the box office dust settles a few days later, the minds of fans worldwide turn to the all but inevitable question of what other famous figures of Marvel Comics lore might be suiting up for the all but inevitable Avengers 2. Browsing through the usual forums and the Twitter, it becomes clear that a lot of people are still expecting the new Spider-Man or perhaps Wolverine to make an appearance, yet unaware that this isn't really a possibility. So, given that this is still pretty much the only thing going on in the nerd universe right now, I will undertake a superheroic feat of my own, attempting to make Hollywood intellectual property law interesting for a few minutes. Or rather, what happens when the fact that
comics are weird
clashes with the way that
movies are weird.
Okay, when someone wants to make a film adaptation of a book or a TV show or some other form of intellectual property, they have to enter into a contract with the owner of said intellectual property, or IP, that grants them the license to do so. In common parlance, possessing this license is referred to as owning the movie rights to a property, meaning that the original owner still controls the IP itself and gets a cut of any money made using it, but the movie studio they've entered into a contract with are the only ones who are allowed to make films out of it. What makes the issue of movie rights for many mainstream comic book characters different from licensing other types of media is that comic book franchises are typically, as is the case with Marvel, owned under the umbrella of single publisher, and these franchises are often integrated by said publishers into a cohesive, continuity-driven universe. In order to keep licensing deals manageable and to keep opportunities open, the movie rights to multiple characters and core concepts of a franchise are generally bundled together in a single contract. For example, 20th Century Fox owns the movie rights to X-Men, but that doesn't just mean they own the characters and the name, they also own the concept of mutants, and thus automatically own the movie rights to any Marvel character who is themselves a mutant, even the ones who aren't traditionally part of the X-Men brand. Prior to starting their own movie studio to develop movies based on their properties in-house, Marvel more or less kicked off the boom in superhero movies by selling the movie rights to their characters to multiple different studios. Fantastic Four, X-Men, and Daredevil went to Fox, Spider-Man went to Sony, Blade went to New Line Cinema, which I think means he's now owned by Warner Brothers, Ghost Rider is at Columbia, Punisher is with Lionsgate, and so forth. The Incredible Hulk was actually with Universal, but they sold the rights back to Marvel when Ang Lee's first Hulk movie didn't make enough money for them. All the rest are staying right where they are because, well, in the old days, movie rights licensing could go on nearly forever, and you could buy the rights to something and just sit on it to prevent someone else from making it. Most present-day versions of license agreements include a caveat that the licensee will lose the movie rights if they aren't actually putting it to use, meaning that if these studios don't keep producing films based on these characters, Marvel, which is now itself part of the all-powerful Walt Disney Company, could conceivably get them back. And nobody at, for example, Sony wants to be the guy who gets blamed for letting Spider-Man get away if and when they lose the rights and Marvel/Disney makes $1 billion off of Spider-Man meets the Avengers. This would be why Fox made X-Men First Class really, really fast and for not a whole lot of money, and are already plotting another Wolverine even after the disastrous first one, and setting up another Fantastic Four even after all that stuff, and why they're planning to make another Daredevil even though nobody is asking for another Daredevil. And of course, it's why Sony went full steam ahead on a wildly unnecessary reboot of Spider-Man, with a dramatically lower budget and newer, more affordable cast members, and then went and announced a sequel before the first film even hits theaters, amid rumors that the studio is so unhappy with the finished product that they're already bringing in a new creative team should Part 2 become a reality. Believe it or not, some of this is actually still in a state of flux. For example, there's still some legal dispute over who actually owns the rights to Namor, the Submariner. He's usually thought of as a member of the Fantastic Four supporting cast, and he's often referred to as the first mutant, which in both cases would mean he belongs to Fox. But he actually originated in his own World War II-era book decades before any of that, which could mean he still belongs to Marvel itself. And if you want really complicated stuff, Marvel Studios boss Kevin Feige recently claimed that Marvel and Fox actually share the rights to the popular Avengers mainstays, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, even though as the children of Magneto and mutants themselves, they should be part of the X-Men package. How does that work? Apparently, Marvel can use them in movies because they're more regularly associated with the Avengers, but they can't ever call them mutants or mention Magneto. You may be wondering why I've yet to bring up how this stuff works for the fellows over at DC Comics. Well, the truth is, that's actually much easier to explain. DC Comics is owned completely by Warner Brothers, which means that one movie studio owns the rights to all of their characters. In their case, the reason nobody can seem to hammer out, say, a Justice League plan is almost hilariously simple. Apart from Batman, Warner Brothers seems to really, really suck at this. I'm Bob, and that's the big picture.